It was the early 90s. Climate issue was difficult because you couldn't see it. But removing oil boilers because that was damaging was something concrete.
District heating is the connection between the electrification of society and the circular economy.
In Norway, district heating utilizes a lot of waste incineration.
Together with other industrial waste heat, the main source of district heating in Norway.
We are incinerating the waste at a high temperature to make the emissions as low as possible. That gives excess heat, and that excess heat is brought into the district heating system as a base solution and base connection between waste to energy and district heating. And then we add other sources as well, like heat pump from the sewage.
And in addition, it uses seawater pumps. It takes seawater from our fjords.
The deep fjords provide cold seawater, which is then exchanged into the cooling systems. That is why we call this urban energy. It's not only heating, it's also cooling.
We can now as well utilize excess heat from data centers.
And in a local community, why should the data center have all the electricity? But if you can reuse that energy in a district heating system, I think that could be a lot of win-win scenarios coming out of that. Use what otherwise would be lost. District heating is a tool for that. Since the 80s, it's been also about heat pumps in Norway. In-house heat pumps, but also the large-scale heat pumps.
Many people saw the advantage of using a heat pump. It was definitely an upgrading of your house. It was a better system for heating.
So we are used to using different sources of renewable energy for heating and cooling purposes, and I think that has been key and the main driver of decarbonisation in Norway.
In the cities we have the history, like most of Europe, with fossil heating, and over the last decades that has been heavily improved, and with the final point now in 2020 when fossil heating of individual buildings were banned, which was the final step in decarbonising basically the heating in Norway.
In 2012, for the first time, there was set a goal: remove all oil boilers by 2020. Heat pumps were alternatives, but they had not a very big market share. So what we did was helping to introduce them into market. There were funding schemes for alternatives, there were funding schemes for removing of oil boilers, there were funding schemes even to help you to pick the oil tank out of your garden. It was important to give them some help because it was difficult. Some cities, like Oslo, has been front runners and said we don't want the oil boilers to pollute our city. The first time it entered the climate debate, NGOs demanded that we should decarbonize heating. Some actions was taken in the 90s when Norway got a CO2 tax.
2 to 5 times higher than the market price for CO2 at the emission trading scheme markets in Europe.
But the main driver was that was an important part of climate policy and have been so from the early 90s.
A key to the success of the business in Norway has also been Enova, the Norwegian fund for the green transition. They have been promoting district heating, and that's been key.
To push decarbonizing heating, I think it's a cooperation between the government and the local cities. The government are putting the rules, the national bans on fossil fuels and so on, but then the cities are pushing the local solutions, and district heating is a local solution. So the city's willingness to build the infrastructure, the willingness to require water-based heating in buildings is essential to actually be able to do the decarbonization at a large scale.
We have a long horizon. The buildings we are building now, they are the ones standing there in 2050. So we need to do things right now. The interaction between buildings is the way forward. And then the interaction between the cities and the power grid, and see city solutions and not building solutions.
And then, don't be afraid to set a bold goal. To fight the tendency of a climate fatigue, because it's so many things that has to be done that are so difficult. This is among the things that just can be done. 5 years ago, heating represented 20% of the climate emissions from Oslo, and today it's none, it's gone. And it's so great to say, problem solved, we got rid of that source, it's over.